Why don't you run? The human replied. Why would I chase you twice? There are relics in this world that should never be found. Secrets so dangerous, they're better left buried. Elias knew that, and yet, here he was, standing in the heart of a forbidden vault, a stolen crystal shard burning in his grip, its whispers slithering into his mind like poison. Behind him, the Order's soldiers pounded at the crumbling door, their blades hungry for his blood. Ahead, only darkness and the terrible truth of what this artifact could unleash. He had one chance to run, but the real question was, could he outrun what the shard had already begun to change inside him? Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. All right, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The night was too quiet, the kind of quiet that made the hairs on the back of Marcus Rook's neck stand up. He adjusted the scope of his rifle, the cold metal biting into his cheek as he scanned the abandoned warehouse below. Broken windows gaped like missing teeth, and the wind whistled through them like a ghost's whisper. His breath was steady and controlled, but his gut churned with unease. Something was off. Movement. Naomi Cross's voice crackled in his earpiece, smooth but edged with tension. 2 hostiles, northeast entrance. They're armed. Marcus didn't answer. His finger rested lightly on the trigger, his body coiled like a spring. The mission was supposed to be simple. Track down the mercenaries selling stolen military tech, ambush them during the exchange, and haul them in. But these guys weren't acting like desperate criminals. They moved like soldiers, precision in every step, rifles held with practiced ease. Naomi's voice dropped lower. Marcus, they're not here for the deal. A shadow shifted near the warehouse doors. A figure stepped into the dim glow of a flickering streetlight, tall, clad in sleek black armor, his helmet reflecting the pale moonlight. The mercenary paused, head tilting slightly as if listening. Then, slowly, deliberately, he raised a gloved hand and waved. Directly at Marcus. A cold knot twisted in his stomach. They knew we were here. Naomi's sharp inhale hissed through the comms. Tell me you saw that. Yeah, Marcus muttered. I saw it. The mercenary's voice cut through the silence, amplified by his helmet's modulator, deep, mocking. You gonna sit up there all night, detective? Or are we doing this? Marcus clenched his jaw. Fall back. Now. Naomi didn't argue. She was already moving, her lithe form darting between covers with lethal grace. Marcus kept his scope trained on the mercenary, watching as the man casually shouldered his rifle. Then the gunfire erupted. Not wild, spray-controlled, disciplined bursts. Bullets punched into the brickwork around Marcus, sending chips of stone flying. He rolled, dropping from the rooftop ledge just as a round whizzed past where his head had been. Naomi's voice was tight. These aren't mercs. They're trained. No kidding. Marcus growled, slamming a fresh magazine into his rifle. A grenade clattered onto the rooftop beside them. Naomi didn't flinch. She snatched it up and hurled it back with a snarl. The explosion lit up the night, shaking the ground beneath them. Through the smoke, the armored mercenary's voice rang out again, amused. Why don't you run? Marcus didn't move. He met the man's gaze through the scope, his voice low and steady. Why would I chase you twice? For a heartbeat, the mercenary froze. Then, the night erupted in gunfire, but not from the warehouse. From the surrounding buildings. Naomi's eyes widened as sniper rounds shredded the air, forcing the mercs into cover. She whipped her head toward Marcus. You knew. He didn't look at her, his focus locked on the chaos below. I had a hunch. The merc leader's furious roar crackled over their stolen comms. You set us up? Marcus finally glanced at Naomi, his grin sharp as a knife. Nah, I just remembered something. The trap wasn't theirs. It was his. Chapter 2. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the bustling streets of Eldermere, where the scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the crisp autumn air. Elias tightened the straps of his worn leather pack, his boots scuffing against the cobblestones as he navigated the crowded market. "Oi, watch where you're going," a burly merchant barked, nearly colliding with him. Elias flashed a grin, sidestepping a crate of apples. "Wouldn't want to bruise your precious cargo, would we?" The merchant grumbled, but Elias was already weaving through the throng, his sharp eyes scanning for a familiar face. He spotted Lyria perched on the edge of the fountain, her fingers deftly plucking the strings of her lute. A small crowd had gathered, coins clinking into the hat at her feet. "Still charming the masses, I see," Elias called, leaning against the fountain's edge. Lyria's melody faltered as she smirked. "Someone's got to pay for your bad habits." She tossed a coin at him, which he caught midair. "Ah, but my bad habits are what keep life interesting," he countered, pocketing the coin. "Speaking of which, ready to get out of here?" Lyria's playful expression faded. "You heard from Kale?" Elias nodded, lowering his voice. "Met him at the docks last night. The map's real, Lyria. And it's not just any ruin. It's the Vault of Seraphis." Her fingers stilled on the lute. "You're joking. Wish I were. But Kale's sources say the artifact's there. And if the Order gets their hands on it first." He didn't need to finish. The grim set of her jaw said enough. Lyria stood, slinging her lute over her shoulder. "Then what are we waiting for? Let's find the others." Elias grabbed her wrist. "Not so fast. We need supplies and a plan. The Whispering Forest isn't exactly a stroll in the gardens." She rolled her eyes. "Since when do you plan anything?" "Since the last time you nearly got us eaten by a shadow beast," he shot back. Lyria laughed, the sound ringing like bells. "Fair point. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. No sorcuts, no requistans punto." Elias placed a hand over his heart in mock offense. "You wound me. When have I ever been reckless?" "Last week. Yesterday. An hour ago. All right. He interrupted, grinning. "Let's find Garrick and Mira. They'll want in on this." As they pushed through the market, the weight of their mission settled between them. The Vault of Seraphis wasn't just another job. It was the kind of legend that could change everything. And if the stories were true, they weren't the only ones hunting it. Lyria nudged him, her voice barely a whisper. "You think we're ready for this?" Elias met her gaze, his usual smirk replaced by something fiercer. "Ready or not, we're out of time. The Order's already moving." The crowd around them blurred into noise as the two strode forward, the promise of adventure and danger hanging thick in the air. Chapter 3. The dim glow of the embers cast long shadows across the ruined chapel as Arya crouched behind a crumbling pillar, her breath shallow. The air smelled of damp stone and burnt parchment, a grim reminder of the battle that had raged here hours before. She tightened her grip on the dagger, her silver-blue eyes scanning the darkness. "You're being reckless," Eldrin muttered, his voice low but sharp. He leaned heavily on his staff, the crystal at its tip flickering weakly. "Charging into Kale's stronghold without a plan? That's not bravery, it's suicide." Arya shot him a glare. "And waiting for him to finish his ritual is better? You saw what he did to the village." Her voice cracked, the image of charred homes and broken bodies flashing in her mind. Eldrin sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm not saying we do nothing, but barging in like a cornered wolf won't help anyone, especially not you." A sharp clink echoed from the far end of the hall. Both froze. Arya's muscles coiled, ready to spring. Well, a smooth, mocking voice slithered through the dark. "The runaway and the old man. How predictable." Kale emerged from the shadows, his crimson eyes gleaming like smoldering coals. His obsidian coat whispered against the stone as he stepped forward, a smirk playing on his lips. "Did you really think hiding here would save you?" Arya's dagger trembled in her hand, not from fear, but fury. "You monster," she spat. "Those people had nothing to do with your war." Kale tilted his head, feigning innocence. "Bah? Oh no, Arya. This isn't war. It's purification." He spread his arms, the silver filigree on his coat catching the dim light. And you're either part of the cure or part of the disease. Eldrin's staff suddenly flared to life, a golden barrier erupting between them. "Run, Arya," he barked. "Not without you," she snapped, grabbing his arm. Kale laughed, a sound like shattering glass. How touching. His gauntlet-clad fingers flexed, dark energy coiling around them. Let's see how long that loyalty lasts. Arya barely had time to yank Eldrin back before the ground beneath them exploded. Rubble rained down as she rolled, coughing. Her vision swam, but she forced herself up, blinking through the dust. Eldrin groaned nearby, his robes torn. "Stubborn girl," he wheezed. "I told you to run, and I told you I'm not leaving you." She shot back, hauling him to his feet. Kale's laughter echoed behind them as they stumbled toward a half-collapsed archway. "Flee all you want," he called. "The prophecy won't change. You'll die screaming, just like the rest." Arya's jaw clenched. "Keep moving," she growled, ignoring the taunt. Eldrin's breath was ragged, but his grip on her arm was firm. "He's toying with us. We need to regroup, find the others." "There are no others," Arya muttered, her chest tight. "Just us." The old man's eyes darkened. "Then we make our stand. But not here. Not like this." Behind them, the chapel groaned, its ancient bones giving way. Arya didn't look back. She knew what she'd see. Kale, standing amidst the wreckage, watching them run like prey. And for the first time, she wondered if he was right. Chapter, for the Whispering Forest lived up to its name. Every rustle of leaves sounded like hushed voices, and the wind carried murmurs that made the hairs on Elias's neck stand on end. He adjusted the strap of his pack, his fingers brushing the hilt of his dagger for reassurance. "Tell me again why we didn't just take the road." Garrick grumbled, swatting away a vine that snagged his cloak. "The burly blacksmith was built for anvils, not forests." "Because the road's crawling with the Order's scouts," Mira said, her sharp eyes scanning the tree-line. "Unless you'd rather explain to a bunch of zealots why we're carrying a map to a forbidden vault." Garrick scowled. "I could have just hit them." Lyria snorted. "And that's why we don't let you make the plans." Elias held up a hand, suddenly tense. Quiet. The group froze. Ahead, the undergrowth trembled, not from wind but movement. Something was stalking them. A low growl rumbled through the trees. Then another. "Shadow beasts," Mira whispered, her hand already on her bow. 3 of them. Maybe more. Garrick hefted his hammer. Finally, something fun. The first beast lunged from the shadows, all fangs and matted fur. Elias barely dodged, rolling to the side as its claws gouged the earth where he'd stood. Elias moved. Lyria's voice rang out, followed by the sharp twang of her lute's magic. A pulse of energy sent the creature sprawling. Myra's arrows found their marks. One beast fell with a shriek, but the others circled, snarling. Garrick swung his hammer with a roar, crushing a shadow beast's skull. "That's one." Elias ducked under a swipe of claws, driving his dagger deep into the last beast's flank. It howled, thrashing before collapsing. Silence returned, broken only by their ragged breaths. Lyria wiped the sweat from her brow. "Well, that was invigorating." Mira nudged a carcass with her boot. "They shouldn't be this far south. The Order must have driven them out." Elias frowned. "Or they're using them as guards." He knelt, examining the beast's scarred hide. "These marks aren't natural. Someone's controlling them." Garrick groaned. "Fantastic. So now we've got mad wizards and monster herds to worry about." Lyria plucked a dissonant chord on her lute. "Makes you nostalgic for simple bar fights, doesn't it?" Elias stood, wiping his blade clean. "We're close. The vault's entrance should be just beyond that ridge." Myra's gaze darkened. "And if the Order's already there, then we improvise," Elias said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. The group pressed on, the forest growing denser, the whispers louder. Then, through the trees, they saw it. A massive stone archway, half buried in ivy and etched with ancient runes. Lyria exhaled. "Seraphis says vault." Garrick whistled. Now the real trouble starts. Elias stepped forward, the weight of destiny heavy on his shoulders. Let's hope we're ready for it. The runes began to glow faintly, as if sensing their presence. Somewhere in the distance, a horn blew, deep, ominous. The order was near. Mira knocked an arrow. No turning back now. Elias met their determined stares. Then we moved fast. Together, they crossed the threshold, the shadows swallowing them whole. Chapter 5. The storm raged outside the abandoned watchtower, rain lashing against the cracked stone walls like 1,000 tiny knives. Arya pressed her back against the damp wood of the door, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The wound on her side burned, but she ignored it, her silver blue eyes locked on the swirling darkness beyond the window. "We can't stay here," she hissed, fingers tightening around the hilt of her dagger. "He'll find us before dawn." Eldrin crouched near the dying fire, his weathered hands hovering over the weak flames. The golden embroidery on his robes was now singed and mud-stained. "And if we go out there, we're dead before sunrise," he countered, his voice gravelly with exhaustion. "Kale's hounds don't tire, don't think. They just hunt." A sharp crack of thunder shook the tower, making the floor tremble. Arya flinched, then cursed under her breath. "We're sitting ducks in here. At least out there, we have a chance to what? Die faster." Eldrin snapped, finally looking up. His amber eyes were bloodshot, his beard streaked with soot. "You're not invincible, girl. That wound proves it." She bared her teeth. "I don't need to be invincible. I just need to be faster than him." Eldrin let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Gods save me from stubborn fools." He reached into his robes and pulled out a small, cracked vial filled with swirling blue liquid. "Drink this. It'll dull the pain, if nothing else." Arya eyed it suspiciously. "Last time you gave me one of your concoctions, I hallucinated for hours. And yet, here you are, alive." He tossed it to her. "Take it or don't. But if you pass out from blood loss mid-fight, don't expect me to carry you." She caught the vial, hesitated, then downed it in one gulp. The taste was bitter, like burnt herbs and metal, but warmth spread through her veins almost instantly. The pain in her side dulled to a faint throb. "Better?" Eldrin asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "I'll live." Another crack, but this time it wasn't thunder. The door behind her shuddered under a heavy impact. Arya spun, dagger raised. Eldrin was on his feet in an instant, staff glowing faintly. "Found us," she muttered. A second blow splintered the wood. Through the cracks, crimson eyes gleamed in the dark. "Arya!" Kale's voice purred from the other side, smooth as poison honey. "Did you really think a rotting door could keep me out?" Eldrin's grip on his staff tightened. "Get ready," he whispered. Arya adjusted her stance, her heart pounding. "Oh, I've been ready." The third blow shattered the door inward. Kale stood framed in the doorway, rain sluicing off his obsidian coat, his white hair plastered to his skull. His smile was a knife's edge. "Let's finish this, shall we?" Arya didn't wait. She lunged. The tower erupted into chaos. Chapter 6. The inner chamber of the Vault of Seraphis was nothing like Elias had imagined. Instead of crumbling ruins, they stood in a vast, glowing hall, walls lined with pulsating runes, the air humming with ancient energy. At the center, suspended in a beam of blue light, floated the artifact, a jagged shard of crystal pulsing like a heartbeat. Lyria let out a low whistle. "Well, that's not ominous at all." Garrick scratched his beard. "How do we know it won't just explode when we touch it?" Mira stepped forward, her scholar's curiosity outweighing caution. "The text said it responds to intent. If we're worthy. Elias cut in, raising an eyebrow. "Since when are we worthy of anything?" Before anyone could answer, the ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling as a distant boom echoed through the vault. Lyria's fingers tightened around her lute. "That'll be the order breaking in." Another explosion, closer this time. Shouts followed. The harsh bark of orders, the clank of armor. Garrick hefted his hammer. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they're on us. Mira turned to Elias, urgency sharp in her voice. We need to take it now. Elias hesitated. The crystal's glow seemed to pulse faster, as if sensing his doubt. And then what? Even if we grab it, they'll hunt us to the ends of the earth. Lyria smirked, though her eyes were deadly serious. So, we're good at running. A third explosion shook the chamber. The doors at the far end groaned, buckling under some unseen force. Mira grabbed Elias's arm. Decide. Now. Elias cursed under his breath, then lunged for the crystal. The moment his fingers brushed it, the world blurred. Visions flooded his mind. A war-torn sky, a city in ruins, a figure in golden armor raising the shard high as the world burned. He gasped, stumbling back. The crystal clattered to the floor, its light dimming. Lyria caught him. What happened? What did you see? Elias's voice was hoarse. The Order doesn't want to control this thing. They want to destroy it, and everything else with it. Garrick paled. Then we can't let them have it. The doors burst open. A dozen armored figures poured in, blades drawn. At their head strode a man in a crimson cloak, high inquisitor vein, his scarred face twisted in triumph. Ah, he purred. The thieves who thought to steal destiny itself. Lyria's fingers danced over her lute strings, magic crackling in the air. Funny, we were just talking about you. Vane's smile didn't reach his eyes. Kill them. Take the shard. Elias snatched the crystal from the floor, its light flaring back to life in his grip. Mira, the back passage. She was already moving, firing arrows into the advancing soldiers. Garrick roared, charging to hold the line as Lyria's magic sent 2 Order zealots flying. Elias clutched the shard, its power searing his skin. Run! They sprinted for a narrow tunnel Mira had spotted earlier, the Order's shouts close behind. As they plunged into darkness, the crystal's glow lit their way. But Elias could feel it changing him, whispering promises of power and ruin. Lyria shot him a glance. You all right? He forced a grin. Never better. The lie hung heavy between them as the vault collapsed behind them, sealing their fate and the world's with every step. Chapter 7. The final battle raged atop the shattered spire, the wind howling like a chorus of the damned. The sky itself was torn, half blood-red dawn, half swirling void where Kale's dark ritual had ripped the fabric of the world. Arya stood at the edge of the broken platform, her chestnut hair whipping wildly, her cloak tattered and singed. Blood dripped from her split lip, but her silver-blue eyes burned with defiance. Kale paced before her, his crimson eyes alight with manic triumph. His obsidian coat was scorched and one clawed gauntlet cracked, but his smile was unshaken. Look around you, Arya, he crooned, spreading his arms. The old world ends today, and you get a watch. Behind them, Eldrin groaned, struggling to rise from where he'd been thrown against the rubble. His staff lay broken, the crystal flickering weakly. Don't listen to him, he gasped. The ritual isn't complete. There's still time. Kale laughed, a sound like shattering glass. Time? Oh, Eldrin. Always the teacher, even when your lessons fail. He turned back to Arya, tilting his head. Tell me, little wolf, was it worth it? All those lives lost for nothing. Arya's grip tightened on her dagger. You don't get to talk about worth, she snarled. You, who burns villages and twists souls just to feed your power. Power? Kale's grin turned razor sharp. This was never about power. It was about survival. The strong endure. The weak. He flicked his fingers toward Eldrin. Well, you see what happens to them. A gust of wind roared between them, carrying the scent of smoke and ozone. Somewhere below, the spire groaned, its foundations crumbling. Arya's voice dropped to a whisper, raw with fury. You're wrong. The strong protect. The weak, they're the ones who think like you. For the first time, Kale's smile faltered. Enough talk, he hissed. He lunged. Arya met him midair, their blades clashing in a shower of sparks. The force of the impact sent them skidding across the stone, both fighting for footing. Kale's gauntlet grazed her ribs, drawing blood, but she twisted, driving her dagger toward his throat. He caught her wrist, his fingers like iron. Predictable, he sneered. Arya bared her teeth. Yeah, I am. With her free hand, she yanked the shattered crystal from her belt, the last shard of Eldrin's staff, and plunged it into Kale's side. He screamed a sound that wasn't entirely human. Dark energy erupted from the wound, writhing like a living shadow. You, for the village, Arya growled. For Eldrin, for every life you stole. She shoved harder. This is how the story ends. The crystal flared blinding white. Kale's body convulsed, his crimson eyes widening in genuine shock. No, no. The light swallowed him whole. Then silence. The wind stilled. The void above shuddered and began to close. Arya collapsed to her knees, gasping. Eldrin limped to her side, his face ashen but relieved. It's over, he murmured. She looked up at the clearing sky, the first true rays of dawn breaking through. Somewhere in the distance, a lone raven cawed. No, Arya said softly, wiping blood from her chin. It's just starting. And as the sun rose over the ruins, the world breathed again. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.